Pilgrim's Progress, Chapter 11. They continued on their path until they came to the Delectable Mountains, which belonged to the Lord. Once they arrived, they climbed the mountains to see the gardens, orchards, vineyards, and fountains. From the fountains they drank the water and washed themselves, and they freely ate from the vineyards. Now on the top of these mountains shepherds were feeding their flocks, and they stood by the side of the highway. The pilgrims went to them, and leaning on their staves, as is common with weary pilgrims when they stand to talk, they asked, "Whose delectable mountains are these, and whose sheep are these that are pasturing on the mountain?" A shepherd answered, "These mountains are Emmanuel's land, and they are within sight of his city. The sheep are also his, and he laid down his life for them." "Is this the way to the celestial city?" Christian asked. The shepherd replied, "You are going in the right direction." "How far is it to get there?" Christian inquired further. One of the shepherds said, "Too far for anyone, except those who shall arrive there." "Is the way safe or dangerous?" Christian wanted to know. "Safe for those for whom the way is made to be safe, but the transgressors will fall off along the way." Christian asked, Is there in this place any relief for pilgrims who are weary and faint in the way?" A shepherd explained, "The Lord of these mountains has given us a charge not to be forgetful to entertain strangers. Therefore the benefits of this place are here for you." I saw also in my dream that when the shepherds perceived that Christian and Hopeful were on pilgrimage, they started asking them questions, such as where they had come from, and by what means they had entered the way and found strength to persevere. "For few," they said, "who begin the journey make it this far safe." When the shepherds heard Christian's and Hopeful's answers, they were pleased, and looking lovingly upon them, warmly welcomed them to the Delectable Mountains. The shepherds, whose names were Knowledge, Experience, Watchful, and Sincere, took them by the hand and led them to their tents, where a meal had been prepared for them. They asked the pilgrims to stay there a while, to get acquainted, and to refresh themselves with all the good things of the Delectable Mountains. Christian and Hopeful told them that they were happy to stay. They then went to rest that night because it was very late. Then I saw in my dream that in the morning the shepherds called Christian and Hopeful to them and asked them to walk with them upon the mountains. So they went with them and walked a while, having a pleasant view all around them. Then the shepherds said to one another, "Shall we show these pilgrims some wonders?" So after they had agreed to do it, they took them first to the top of the hill called Error, which was very steep on the far side, and asked them to look down to the bottom. So Christian and Hopeful looked down and saw at the bottom several men dashed to pieces by a fall. Then Christian asked, "What does this mean?" The shepherds answered, "Haven't you heard of those who fell into error by listening to Hymenaeus and Philetus, who denied the faith by refusing to believe in the resurrection of the body?" When they answered that they had, the shepherds continued, "Those whom you see dashed in pieces at the bottom of this mountain are they, and they have continued to this day unburied, as you see, for an example to others to take heed, not to clamber too high or come too near the brink of this mountain." Then I saw that the shepherds took them off to the top of another mountain, named Caution, and asked them to look far off. When they did, they saw what they thought were several men walking up and down among the tombs there. They perceived that the men were blind, because they stumbled upon the tombs, and because they could not get out from among them. Then Christian asked, "What does this mean?" The shepherds answered, "Do you see a little below these mountains a stile that leads into a meadow on the left hand of the way?" When they spotted it, the shepherds said, "From that stile there is a path that leads directly to Doubting Castle, which is kept by Giant Despair, and these," said the shepherds, pointing to those who were stumbling among the tombs, "were once on pilgrimage, they were, just as you are. But when they came to that same stile, where the true way was rough, they chose to go out of it into that meadow. Once in the meadow, they were taken by Giant Despair and cast into Doubting Castle. After they had been kept in the dungeon for a while, he at last put out their eyes and led them among these tombs, where he left them to wander to this very day. The saying of the wise man is fulfilled. He that wanders out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead." Then Christian and Hopeful looked at one another with tears streaming down their faces, but they said nothing to the shepherds. Then I saw in my dream that the shepherds took them to another place in the bottom of a ravine, where there was a door in the side of a hill. The shepherds opened the door and asked them to look in. They looked and saw that it was very dark and smoky. They also thought they heard a rumbling noise like that of a fire, and the cries of someone being tormented, and they smelled the scent of brimstone. Then Christian asked, "What does this mean?" The shepherds told them, "This is a byway to hell, a way that hypocrites enter by doing such things as selling their birthright, like Esau, or selling their master, like Judas, or blaspheming the gospel, like Alexander, or lying and dissembling, like Ananias and Sapphira, his wife." Then said Hopeful to the shepherds, "I perceive that all these people you have mentioned had the appearance of being pilgrims, just as we do, did they not?" "Yes, and for a long time too," a shepherd replied. Hopeful inquired, "How long did they appear to go on their pilgrimage before they were miserably cast away?" The shepherd answered, "Some came as far as these mountains, some even farther, and some were lost long before they ever got here." Then the pilgrims said to one another, "We need to cry to the Strong One for strength." "Yes," a shepherd agreed, "and you will have need to use that strength when you get it." By this time, all agreed that the pilgrims should continue their journey, so they walked together to the end of the mountains. Then the shepherds said to one another, "Let us show the pilgrims the gates of the celestial city, if they have skill to look through our telescope." The pilgrims consented eagerly to the idea, so they took them to the top of a high hill called Clear, and gave them their telescope, which the pilgrims carefully looked through. But their recollections of all that the shepherds had just shown them made them tremble a little, causing their hands to shake, and making it difficult to see clearly through the glass. But they thought they saw something like a gate, and also some of the glory of the place. As they prepared to depart these mountains, they sang this song. Thus by the shepherds secrets are revealed, from which all other men are kept concealed. Come to the shepherds then, if you will see things deep, things hid, and that mysterious be. Before they departed, the shepherd Knowledge gave them a map of the way. Another shepherd, Experience, told them to beware of the flatterer. The third, Watchful, warned them not to sleep on the enchanted ground. And the fourth, Sincere, bid them Godspeed. So I awoke from my dream. This has been Chapter 11 of Pilgrim's Progress.